Hope you guys have joined, and I would like to start with the session. Hello and welcome to all the students on behalf of Campus Credential. I would like to welcome all the students here for an interesting session on TCS. Especially, we'll be focusing on the verbal ability skills for in context with TCS. All right. So usually what happens, guys, when you appear for any interview process, when you try to participate in any interview process, usually companies conduct kind of aptitude test, and in that aptitude test there will be different sections like numerical, logical, and likewise. So today we'll be focusing on one of the important aspect of that aptitude test, and that is verbal ability. What happens in verbal ability here? Usually what happens, like when you start to communicate in English and when you have to express your language, your content, your thoughts, your ideas in English, that has to be perfectly understood by the global audience, because most likely technocrats like you will be working with global workforce, and while working with global workforce there need to be a standard and universally acceptable communication, and especially in English. Therefore each company basically focuses or test the language skills of their employees. In that context, you hope you can see the screen right now. There is a sample test pattern, especially in context with TCS. Hope it is visible for you. In this context, you might have seen the how the questions are divided into different parts. For example, passage ordering, we call it like parajumble. Again, using correct words, selecting right words. And here you can also see the number of questions, difficulty, and its importance also. So let's start to understand how the verbal ability test most likely will be conducted by TCS. Possibility is that there might be some little changes in actual exam, but this would be the standard pattern being used by TCS. So starting with the first point, they'll be focusing on passage ordering, wherein they'll be giving you, they will be providing you around 4 to 5 sentences of one paragraph, but those will be in jumbled form. And you just need to um, put the sentences in proper sequence. In further session, I'll show you the samples also. Now, second will be selecting words. There will be kind of fill in the blank or one word substitute kind of exercise, wherein a right word which you have to select. In usually in each test there will be at least one question, and the difficulty level will be quite easy. In fact, it is medium, and importance is no doubt medium. Now, one more important aspect will be there, synonyms and antonyms, wherein one word will be provided to you. Either it can be a synonym or it can be an antonym. If it is synonym, then they may ask you to identify a proper synonym or most suitable synonym for that given word, and there will be four options in case there will be five options too. But for this pattern, TCS is paying more attention and they are paying more weightage, and therefore there will be around four questions. If you notice the number of questions given in TCS exam pattern, highest weightage is given for synonyms and antonyms. The difficulty level will be high because they are looking for a person having strong vocabulary base, and therefore they are going to conduct the test pattern in which there will be four questions basically on synonym or antonym. Similarly, there will be closed test, kind of fill in the blanks, where I'll show you the samples also. It can be a medium or high level again. There can be some spelling corrections. What usually happens, they'll provide you 4 to 5 words at a time, and they'll ask you to select the correctly spelled word, or vice versa. They may ask you to identify the misspelled word. In grammar sections, they can cover anything, right from tense, degree, direct to indirect speech, reported speech, punctuation marks, even articles. They can go with any content in grammar, because grammar is almost a vast area. and it has no doubt, it has fair weightage they have given. Three questions will be based on the grammar content. The difficulty level will be high. No doubt you cannot expect simple, very easy questions based on grammar. Then going ahead, there will be reading comprehension. And what happens in reading comprehension? In reading comprehension, okay, in reading comprehension, there will be a kind of paragraph given. In that paragraph, based on that paragraph, there will be around 4 to 5 questions. In case, as you can see the weightage, 2 questions on that paragraph will be there. Then error identification is an inseparable part of any aptitude test, especially any verbal test conducted by any company. Now, error identification is bit different and error correction is bit different. Usually what happens in error identification, they will provide you one sentence divided into 4 to 5 parts. And maybe in one or the other part, there will be one grammatical error or error which you need to identify. I'm also going to show you the sample. Then there will be error correction also. Purposefully, there will be a kind of mistake in a sentence and you need to identify, and accordingly you have to correct it. So it has also a fair weightage given. 3 questions will be there around and the difficulty level will be medium. Then there will be a kind of exercise where you need to complete the sentence. Maybe at the beginning or at the end, the part of the sentence will be missing. Accordingly, options will be given to you, and you need to identify which option is correctly fitting to that context of the sentence. Now, try to understand, guys, what happens in verbal ability test. Usually people ignore it because since childhood they are learning English language, developing English language skills. But never the time when you appear for the aptitude test, you will find the similar sort of questions. There will be the difficulty level will be completely different than usually how you communicate in day-to-day life. So therefore, I'm going to start with a small activity which will try to cover almost all aspects of this grammar and verbal ability test. All right. To start with, I would like to share one exercise with you wherein you will come to know how usually they conduct the test here. Okay, just a minute. Yeah, hope you can see a page on the screen here. There is a kind of, this is not a standard pattern by TCS or likewise similar companies. This is specifically designed by me to let you understand how actually you can identify the errors, and number of grammatical aspects will be covered in this. If we start reading this content, we will come to know that there are many mistakes in this document. For example, in the beginning itself, we see to sponsor. Now, here the first mistake you can see, it shouldn't be to sponsoring, because when we use the base form of the verb, there must be the verb, there shouldn't be any suffix added to the verb. For example, sponsoring, sponsored. Likewise, it should be absolutely to sponsor. Similarly, if you notice that there is one more punctuation error, the title of that subject is began with a single inverted comma, but if you see there is no, the single inverted comma is not used at the end to close the content. Therefore, there has to be the single inverted comma closing at the end. Similarly, if you see Aurangabad is the name of a city and it is a proper noun, and therefore A has to be in capital. Okay, so Aurangabad's A has to be capital. Similarly, Bhutan is a proper noun, therefore B has to be in capital. If you see, I asked you, right? I told you, right? There will be some spelling errors. Now, if you see here, cycling, there you can see unnecessarily one L is added, there added, and therefore the correct spelling of cycling is cycling. No need of using double L. So if you go through this exercise throughout, you'll identify a number of common errors, a number of certain errors which are being tested in the verbal ability test, especially by TCS. Moving ahead, um, you can see dear sir. Now, in the above part here, if you see here, no name of recipient is mentioned. So you cannot predict whether it can be a male or female. So on what basis can we use this salutation as a sir? There can be a ma'am also. In that context, what you're supposed to do, dear sir, oblique, ma'am will be the right option. Some students might be thinking, "Oh, how can we call, or how can we use the salutation dear here in this context?" Try to understand, guys. This letter is written by an authority of an institute to a company owner, or maybe CEO, MD, or manager likewise. In that context, it is acceptable. Again, in US culture, people use such sort of informal language, and that can be acceptable. Okay, now let's move to the next part at the outset. Okay, at the outset, I am feel privileged. Now, this is completely a big blunder on grammar level. For example, the spelling of feel is different. Those are homonyms, like homophones, but the spellings are different. Now, what do you mean by FILL? Feel. Let's say we fill the glass with water, right? In that context, this feel has its meaning. But herein, when we are talking about our feelings, in that context, the spelling should be FEEL. We call it FEEL. Now, this is what we call one more grammar error. Now, again, I am feel privilege is grammatically incorrect, because when we have to compose a simple present tense, in this context, there is no need to use am. Therefore, it will be I feel privileged. And again, privileged is an adverb in this context. So therefore, it has to be added with the suffix ed. So I feel privileged is again grammatically incorrect. It should be I feel privileged. Ed has to be added to it. Then if you move on, for introduce, whenever we use for it before a verb, usually the verb is followed by a suffix ing. Therefore, for introducing will be correct, but in this context, for is not suitable. Therefore, it should be I feel privileged to introduce myself. To is a preposition which is correctly fitting in this position. Now, the person who is writing this letter is representing an institute. Therefore, the correct form of reflexive pronoun of are is not ourself, it is ourselves. Selves, right? Similarly, as the pioneer of modern educational in, now see why AL is there. There is no need of using AL. We can simply say that ourselves as the pioneer of modern education in Marathwada state. Now try to understand, guys, Marathwada is not a state, it's a region. Then wrong use of word. Now if you can see, just in 2-3 lines we found number of mistakes, and it talks about your language proficiency also. And if you go through this test throughout, you'll come to know, you'll come across with different grammar rules. Considering the time limit, I would like to move fast. Here, our trust, Maharshi Shikshan Prasarak Mandals, there is no need of using apostrophe s here. In fact, there is no need of using s, and it is in fact the apostrophe here will be considered as single inverted comma, and that's it. Now, Maharshi Shikshan Prasad Mandal is a name of a trust which is used here in the context of third person singular. Therefore, for third person singular, we do not use are. It should be is. And now here comes the degree. You might have studied positive degree, comparative degree, and superlative degree. Now try to understand, guys, when we use superlative degree, we usually use the article the before it. Now try to understand, when I'm saying she is the most beautiful, okay, the toppest, the highest, the biggest. In this context, when we use the before a superlative degree adjective, then old has to be added with a suffix est, right? Est. In this context, is the old is incorrect. Therefore, it has to be the oldest. And if it is the oldest, and when we are using add, then definitely the second adjective will be again in the superlative form. Therefore, it shouldn't be bigger, it should be biggest. Now, why trust has added us is in plural form? It has to be in singular form, right? So therefore, we never should use plural form of trust. When we say one of the biggest trust in this context, we can use trust. But here we are not using one of the term. Therefore, it has to be trust. In the region, correct. Establishing. See, it was established in 1965. So how can we use establishing? Establishing is something which where the action is going on. It is already established in 1965. Therefore, we cannot say establishing, right? It has to be established. Here, established use karna. And then to promote intellectual, ethical, and cultural development. Now, sentence correction. See what is happening here. Intellectual, ethical, in the same similar fashion we need to say cultural, because we need to maintain the form of the sentence, right? Cultural development of society. Currently the trust are, see, trust is third person singular as I mentioned, therefore are is incorrect subject verb agreement. Trust is third person singular, so therefore are is not going with trust. We are violating here the subject verb agreement is being violated, so therefore we must need to say trust is. And when we use trust is, then imparted is grammatically incorrect, because here this word currently talks about present tense. When we are talking about present tense, and when here instead of are we are using is, then imparted will be incorrect. Imparting. When we use am is are was were shall be will be in a sentence as a helping verb, automatically the verb will be followed by a suffix ing. Therefore, imparted will be incorrect. It has to be imparting. Quality education to more than 1 lakh student. Now see the number 1 lakh, and therefore student has to be in a plural form, students. Through the dedication services, dedication is a noun and dedicated is an adjective or adverb. So in that context, dedicated has to be used, not dedication. Services of 4 thousands. See guys, whenever you write a check, you never use thousands, right? Even though it is 90,000, 70,000, never says thousands. So similarly here, S is added irrelevantly and there is no connection for it. Faculty members and support staffs. Now see, staff is already a collective noun. It is a plural noun. So therefore we cannot say staffs again, because we are habitual of saying people's, or I may say the children's are playing outside. Now children's. Children itself is a plural form. Then why do I need to add s to it to make it plural? And that is the common mistake which we do. All right. The trust is recognized for their dazzling and consistent tradition of toppers and meritorious students who were. Now, when we have used currently in above context, then how can we use the past tense? Here, therefore, it has to be used like the students who are holding important positions in government. If you notice spelling correction, then here the spelling error is government. Their N is missing. Government. All right. So this is how we need to identify how we can go with it. All right. So in that context, our efforts, government as well as in private sectors, no need to say sectors, sector is sufficient, government as well as in private sector, across the national. Now across the nation is correct. National is an adjective. When we use al, either it becomes adjective or adverb. So in this context, national is absolutely not a correct thing. All right. Just a minute, guys. I just need to inform my team about the subscription. Alright, so let's continue. Now, see, our efforts have been here. Effort should be in plural because multiple efforts have been taken. Therefore, we need to add S here. Our efforts have been recognized as the best education institute. Now, here again. Now, if you notice, guys, there are a number of mistakes happening here. The best educational institute is correct, right? We cannot say education institute. It is educational institute. And if it is single institute, then there is no need to add S to it, right? So therefore, we need to remove this yes. By the government of Maharashtra in 2004, right? So in this context, in the year, moving ahead, in the year 2009, after 2009, we need to use a comma, right? We cannot simply um, compose a sentence like this, right? So there has to be a comma, all right? Now, in the year 2009, there is a comma. The trust, why T has to be in capital? There is no need to use the T in capital form. It has to be smaller form. Now, in 2009, it is the past tense, right? So, in that context, we cannot say begin. Begin represents simple present tense. And when we have to use past tense, simple past tense, automatically it becomes began. With an AICT approved integrated campus in the name of here, in the name after that, we have to use OF of Maharshi Institute of Engineering and Management Studies. Our students has is incorrect. Our students is a plural form. So for third person plural, they. For they, we have a subject verb agreement in present tense, especially when we use have as had. We have to use have, not has. Proven his talent. Now his is not right pronoun here. We need to use our students, that is third person singular, not third person plural. Therefore, his is incorrect. We have to use their talent in both technical and non-technical skills. Now we are talking about both skills. Therefore, automatically skills has to be in the plural form. Hence, the institute is able to provide highest placements. Now, it is not highest placements, it should be highest number of placements. All right. So, it has to be highest number of. Okay, highest number of placements. So this is how, guys, you have to go through the number of errors. Like here, you can find the spelling error, photography club. It has to be photography club. Okay, then if you move on the next slide, you'll come to know it shouldn't be will be going to. It has to be will be going on. If you see here, first week of December, the spelling of week is wrong. It has to be WEEK. Kind of errors will be there. Okay, so this is how I just wanted to give you a glimpse about the errors occurring. And if you come across with certain errors, you need to solve. Now let's move to the synonyms and antonyms, which we were supposed to, because that has the highest weightage given in it. Okay, let's try to understand it, how it goes. Now, see, I hope you guys can see the screen here. Kind of difficult words will be there, and you need to find a suitable synonym for it. Okay, so the first word is haughty, and it has four options given, and the correct option is arrogant, right? Haughty. It may sound similar, but the correct option is haughty, and explanation it is given there likewise. So sort of question paper, sort of questions will be there. Surmise. Now surmise, you need to find the correct synonym. Verify, confirm, validate, speculate likewise. And the correct synonym is speculate. Now guys, you before you appear for certain verbal ability test, you need to go through certain synonyms and antonyms test, maybe hundreds of frequently asked words will be given there. And if you can cover those words, it will be easy for you. See the level of the words here. Metal, okay, timidity, fear, courage, cowardice. Now, we have used the phrase, we frequently use the phrase, right? I will prove the metal, right? I will prove my metal. Now, what do you mean by I will prove my metal? Okay, so it has to be metal, not this is not the courage. Metal. How do you prove it? You prove your courage, right? So this is how synonyms will be there, and likewise, number of questions will be there. This was just a glimpse for you guys. Apart from this, what errors usually they focus on? They focus on certain mother tongue errors like MTI errors, like wrong words. For example, if you see the screen here, okay. Now see, how do they find provide you the exercise like incorrect form? I will give the exam. You say right when you go for the paper, you say I will give the exam. Give is incorrect. You actually take the exam, right? So I will take the exam is grammatically correct. Why do we say give the exam? That is the mother tongue influence. When you speak in Hindi or any other native language, you say my paper de raha hu. And therefore, in that context, de raha hu is replaced with give. So always keep in mind, English has its own setup of language and Marathi has its own, maybe your mother tongue has its own setup of language. So in that context, you cannot simply use certain errors. So focus on incorrect form. Next sentence. It's raining strongly. That is what we call colloquism. Two words going together. Rain is not strong. Rain is heavy. Okay. Similarly, incorrect form. Their dog is barking. Now this there and the second there is a confusion, right? So sort of errors will be there, and you need to identify. There is a huge data. This was just a glimpse for you guys to understand how the verbal ability test by companies like TCS will be conducted. Maybe we'll get another chance to interact, and in that context, we will definitely have a detailed session and we'll try to understand how verbal ability is being tested and conducted. All right. So maybe we can try some misspelled word in a minute or likewise. Yeah. Now, if you see here, uh, one word is misspelled, and it's all words look accurately, like almost all words look with correct spelling, but there is one error, and that is radiant. Okay, radiant. So here re is used, so it is incorrect, right? So similarly, they may ask you to identify the spelling errors also. Right. The next is detailed, intricate or intricate. So intricate, वहीं पे लग रहा है, right? So that is the mistake, right? So it is intricate. So here, if you see, try to read the second word, you cannot even pronounce it because you haven't ever came across with certain word. But when you check the correct spelling here, you will come to know, oh, it is intricate. It is not intricate.